American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life when the words all come down.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy, and that's Jo.
And yes, we are coming to you live. Wait, no, we're not coming. This is a podcast that's recorded. I don't know
What are
what
you
you're saying.
talking about?
We're coming. We have another guest this week, and we're excited very much because we have a guest, not only a guest from another country,
Yes.
Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, Canada. We have a guest that we don't know
Yeah.
for the first time. We've been reaching out to folks on Podcorn, and we've been doing, and folks have been reaching out to us on Podcorn, which is a cool website where podcasters can kind of meet each other.
Collaborate.
And advertisers can meet you, and you can get advertisers on your podcast. So I've been taking all the podcasts that have wanted to advertise, or us to advertise on their podcast, and give them money and asking them, hey, instead of money, do you want to be a
do we
guest?
just swap?
And so some of those folks are saying yes and are exciting. And it's also giving us a chance to learn new podcasts and meet new podcasters and listen to new podcasts. So this week we have from Canadian History Ehx, Craig is joining us live. Hi, Craig.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being here, Craig. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Canadian History Ehx right up from the beginning? And it's EHX, not X, the letter. Tell us a little bit about your podcast. Go ahead and pitch it to our listeners real quick before we get started.
Well, yeah, it's Canadian History Ehx. And like you said, it's EHX, kind of going with that whole stereotypical Canadian A thing.
That's right.
And so it's all about Canadian history. As the title says, I look at everything from the guy who tried to jump the St. Lawrence in his rocket car to shows like the Beachcombers and Mr. Dress-Up just recently, to things like rebellions and the pig war that we fought with the Americans once. Just a wide variety of things. I put out 3 episodes a week, and yeah. And I do
great.
interviews and things like that as well.
Yes. So, and you don't have to be Canadian to listen to it, although we do have quite a lot of listeners from Canada, I found out.
Oh,
recently.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we're on Libsyn, like we're put out on Libsyn, and they give us lots of stats. And there's even a map where you can look at what countries are listening to
Oh,
you.
yeah?
And so it's sometimes misleading, though, or confusing, because sometimes the numbers don't add up to our total listens they have. So
All right,
I don't-
nobody cares.
Anyway, but we do have a lot of Canadian listeners. But no, that segue, the reason I bring that up is I just have to brag a little bit up at the top here.
Okay.
I got an email last night, and it could be a spam or a scam. It could be completely untrue, but it was from a guy with podstatus.com. Carlos with podstatus.com.
Okay.
I don't know if podstatus is a real thing. I have no idea. I don't
No
know.
way to find out.
No way to find out. I Googled to see if it's a scam.
Yeah.
I didn't see. And he said, hey, how's it going? I have some cool information that might interest you. Your podcast, American Timelines, has good performance in some rankings the last 30 days. We are in position 195 in the category of comedy in Thailand,
I love it.
according to this guy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But according to my Libsyn stats,
Yeah.
we only have 8 downloads in Thailand. so I'm not sure which is true or how it works or what. I don't know. So maybe it's real. I don't know.
If any of it's true.
I know a guy. We know a guy that lives in Thailand that started a theater company. So maybe he listens to us.
Who?
Stephen Turner. Remember that guy? He was the director of a theater company that I worked in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right. That was a good story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, his father was a blaxploitation director. Anyway, in the 70s. That's neither here nor there. Let's jump right in, and we have to get used to this pause. There's quite a delay from Canada. Canada's far away from North Carolina, so there's a little bit of a delay. So we're going to try to do this our best, and so we're going to jump right in March.
You thought we were done with March, but you were mistaken.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry. We left off at the end of March, but Amy found something else after we ended last week's that happened in March, so she wanted to really wedge this one in.
Well,
And there's
either
no-
that or I couldn't find jack shit for April.
And there's no rules to podcasting.
No, there
there's no
aren't.
rules. Like, this is our format. We can do it.
I'm glad that you started wearing a shirt.
I did. I am wearing a shirt this week. I am sweaty, though. I was wearing a sweatshirt, but I took that sweatshirt off.
Okay.
I'm having hot flashes. I think I'm going
Yeah.
through male menopause. That's
A whole
again,
nother podcast.
Poor Craig. Craig, I apologize to you. We don't represent all Americans, so don't.
Well, you just sounded like a typical American.
I probably did. Shirtless, sweaty American.
guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I put my MAGA hat away. Don't worry, Craig.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
I have a question for you, Craig.
Okay.
Sure.
What do Canadians think about the whole election issue and everything? Like, what is? I can't imagine what they must think.
Please answer on behalf of all Canadians.
Yeah, Canada was following that super close. Like even I think most of the people I knew were watching it on the I was watching it on YouTube and keeping track of what was happening. I think most Canadians, myself included, were very happy about the Biden-Harris win. But we were keeping a very close eye because Trump had some really weird policies with Canada, especially with trade. And yeah, we kept a real close eye on that. Most of us really like Trudeau. He's a pretty good guy. And he was like the polar opposite
like
of
it.
Trump. But yeah, we keep a very, very close eye.
That's right.
I don't know if you guys remember, but there was that thing where Trump would shake a hand and you'd always yank somebody close to him in this weird way.
Yes.
Well, it was this
Yes.
big thing in
Yeah.
Canada where he was meeting Trudeau for the first time, and we were like, well, what's Trudeau going to do? And then he tried to do it to Trudeau, and Trudeau was a pretty fit guy, and he held his ground and didn't get yanked towards Donald Trump. And so we were all very prideful about the fact that, Justin Trudeau wasn't yanked around.
That's great.
That is great. That's hilarious. Yeah, I remember some of that. That's hilarious. Cool. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's good info.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I over the last couple years before the pandemic started, we traveled to Scotland for Fringe, and I was in Montreal for just for laughs last year. I do comedy as my regular job producing, and I just wanted to apologize to everyone everywhere and just be like, hey, I know America. I apologize on behalf of all of us. But I did notice in Montreal, like, it was very apparent that marijuana is legal. Everywhere I went in Montreal, there was just clouds of smoke, and I was so happy. I was so happy about that.
Yes.
I don't smoke it myself, but I think everyone should be able to. I loved it.
There's so many pot shops around me now. I think there's probably 4 or 5, like within 20 minutes of my house now. It's everywhere.
Oh, what part of Canada are you in?
Oh, I am just outside of a place called Edmonton, which is the capital of Alberta. So I am in the Prairie Provinces. I'm actually a bit north.
Oh.
We got tons of snow right now, and it's a bit cold. But yeah, I'm in.
Oh my gosh!
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, home of the Edmonton Oilers and Wayne Gretzky and all of that.
Yeah, I thought that's an Oilers hat you're wearing.
That
right?
is, yeah, that is.
Now, when you
Yeah.
Now, when you say it's a bit cold, I want to know what that means to you, because personally, North Carolina here, a bit cold would be probably 58, 60.
That's a bit cold for us.
I'm just converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit here, so. Actually, today.
That's right.
Yes, today is kind of warm. It's 3 degrees Celsius, so that's 37 degrees Fahrenheit. But that's actually really warm for December. That's warm for December.
Oh wow!
But it'll probably go down to by January. It's not uncommon for it to get down to about minus 31 Fahrenheit, which is But right now, like you can go outside and I'm wearing a hoodie and I can walk outside in 3 degrees Celsius, no problem. It's actually kind of nice.
You can walk outside, but
Well, we used to live a little bit north. We used to live in Chicago. I'm from Ohio originally, so we were used to the cold, but we've now lived in North Carolina for
8 years,
9 years now. So it's true. what they say about it, like thinning your blood. Like I am a wuss
Yeah.
when I go
Me
back to
too.
Ohio now. So yeah, it's really true. But that being said, now wuss, is that a Canadian term? Wuss? Is that
Yeah, we use that here. Wuss, hoser. I don't know if you guys know who Bob and Doug and
Hoser, yeah.
Mackenzie
I love
are.
hoser.
but
take off, hoser?
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Second, big time. Yes.
Strange brew.
It's
Yes,
actually kind
Bob
of
and
funny.
Doug.
We
Take off,
actually have
hoser.
a statue of Bob and Doug Mackenzie in Edmonton right now. You can actually sit on a bench with Bob and Doug Mackenzie.
That is
there.
hysterical.
Oh my gosh,
That
that's
is
great.
so funny.
Yes. Yes, that is so cool. Hilarious. So you're a big hockey fan also, right? You must love hockey?
I do, yeah. I
Canadians
love the
have
Edmonton
to.
Oilers.
Okay.
It's kind of our thing, yeah. It's kind of it's our jam, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of hockey in here this year.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Amy, you'll have to
I
settle
will.
down and
I'll be
let
good.
Craig enjoy the hockey. All right. Now we'll jump right into Amy's story.
Okay.
Since we took all this time up front to just kind of BS. But this was fun. This is good. It's always
Yeah.
good to shoot the shit with your guest. But Amy's going to jump right in with murder story, I think, that happened on March 19th.
Yes,
Of
I'm.
1950. That's where we left
That's
off,
right.
1950.
And I'm going to do the murder of Jo Ann Dewey.
Jo Ann Dewey.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
got excited at first because it said it was a Vancouver story. So I got all excited. And that's really why I picked it initially, because I thought, oh gosh, Craig's going to love this because it's Canadian.
It's Canadian.
But then it turned out it was Vancouver, Washington, which I didn't even know existed.
The much smaller Vancouver.
Yeah. Sorry,
So-
Craig.
Yes.
Yeah, the insignificant Vancouver. And so this must have happened on March 19th, 1950, the same day that actor William Hurt was born
Yes.
in Washington, D.C. Also probably the same day that Edgar Rice Burroughs, you know who that is? The author that created the Tarzan series.
Oh, okay.
He died that day.
Oh.
So those two things were happening. One person was born, one person died,
One person's murdered.
and one person is murdered.
So I got my information from historylink.org,
Historylink.org,
crimecapsule.com,
crimecapsule.com,
and Wikipedia.
and Wikipedia, which we all know anyone can edit.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
On the evening of March 19th, 1950, a young woman named Jo Ann Dewey got off a bus in downtown Vancouver, Washington, made some phone calls from the station, and started walking east. She'd seen a movie with a friend in Portland, but missed a connecting bus to her family home in Meadow Glade. After calling a friend and her mother, she came up with a plan to spend the night with a family friend who worked as a nurse at St. Joseph's Hospital, then go home in the morning. Okay, so that's her plan.
Okay.
At about 11:30 p.m., are you listening? Because you're,
I was just looking for the dog to make sure he wasn't, but I don't know where he is.
yeah. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
At about 11:30 p.m., a woman's terrified screams were heard by residents in some nearby apartments.
Oh.
And students at the nursing school also heard it.
Ooh.
And that was 2 blocks away. So,
2 block scream?
yes, 2 block scream.
That's a loud scream.
Witnesses said they saw a young woman struggling with 2 men under a dim streetlight, but no one interfered. So there's all these people are witnessing this. And one witness, whose name was veterinarian Dr. Chester N. Thackeray, came out of his apartment and from a safe distance complained, stop that racket. Oops, I'm sorry. Stop that racket. And then one of the 2 guys that was attacking this woman yells, "Shut up, this is my wife."
Oh.
And she started yelling, "No, I'm not.
Oh.
And then the men punched her in the head and face,
Oh.
dragged her into an older model black Buick sedan, and drove away with its lights off before witnesses could summon the police or get the car's license number.
Oh boy.
So imagine witnessing that, The Vancouver Police Department, however, was notified of the disturbance and sent 2 patrol officers, Carl Forsbeck and Frank Irwin, to investigate.
Okay.
In the street near where the sedan had been parked, they found a strap torn from a woman's handbag, a barrette, and a partially empty bottle of Rainier beer laying in the street.
Rainier beer.
Rainier beer. The items were collected as evidence of a potential crime. So
Okay.
right now they don't know who she is.
They don't even know who
Right?
okay.
They just, a neighbor called and said, "We witnessed this horrible thing."
Right.
and the police come, and that's what's left.
Okay.
So the next morning on Monday, well, the next afternoon, March 20th.
Oh, March 20th, 1950?
Yes.
The same day that. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? That's the day William Hurt was born.
Well,
I was
you lied to us.
wrong. I lied completely. It wasn't the 19th. I'm so wrong.
Yeah, you are.
But that's also the same day. Remember last episode we talked about those airline pilots that saw a UFO near Memphis?
Yes.
So that's the same day as that happened.
Okay.
So this could be related.
Okay.
The aliens in Memphis could be related to...
I doubt it.
No, maybe not.
Okay. So, Anna Dewey, which was Jo Ann's mom.
Okay.
Anna
Dewey is Jo Ann's mom.
She calls the Vancouver Police Department to report her daughter missing.
Her daughter's missing.
Vancouver Police Chief Harry Diamond assembled teams of officers and hundreds of volunteers to search parks, ravines, lake shores, riverbanks, and other isolated areas in and around the city.
Okay.
Clark County Sheriff Earl N. Anderson assigned deputies to roam the back roads and inspect all deserted buildings and sent search parties into remote woodland areas.
Okay.
On Thursday, authorities On Thursday, authorities conceded the search for clues to Dewey's disappearance had been fruitless and asked citizens to report anything that appeared suspicious.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So then on Sunday morning, March 26, 1950.
See, this is the one I've been waiting for. March 26, 1950, the same day that Dolly, the 27-year-old elephant who was the star of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, killed a 5-year-old boy.
What?
Roger Schooley. He and his brother, both of Las Vegas, New Mexico, had been tossing peanuts to the elephant at the circus winter quarters in Sarasota, Florida. When Roger ducked under the guard rope to pick up some of the peanuts off the ground, Dolly grabbed him with her trunk, threw him to the ground, then crushed his head with her foot.
What?
Yes. That happened the same day. Isn't that crazy?
What in the world?
And I'm so glad that you did a March story because I somehow missed telling that story last episode. I don't know how I missed it.
Can I?
That's awful.
Can I
awful?
just jump in?
Yeah.
Yes.
You said
Yes,
March
correct.
26th, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's the same day that Martin Short was born in Hamilton, Ontario.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, why didn't I have that? Yes. Martin Short.
Now, did you know that off the top of your head, Craig, or are you a big Martin Short
I actually
fan?
really do like Martin Short because I'm a big fan of SCTV, but I do
Okay.
have Wikipedia open in front of me for.
Oh, right. So that helps.
Yes.
Because I was going to be really impressed if you knew his birthday off the top of your head.
Yes, and I can't believe I left that out. Marty Short's.
I do know John
Candy's.
Candy's.
Three Amigos. I mean,
John Candy's is October 31st,
Okay.
1950.
You have that
Wow.
memorized. Okay, he was a Halloween
Yeah.
baby. Okay.
1950. Wow.
Okay.
We'll get to that one.
Oh yeah, we'll have to make sure to remember that.
So then on Sunday morning, March 26th,
Yes.
3 salmon fishermen found the nude body of a young woman lodged among the boulders on a gravel bar in the Wind River in Skamania County.
Ooh.
The location was 2 miles below a narrow 28-foot high suspension bridge that was across the river.
Okay.
So it's like right below this bridge.
All right.
A statewide alert had been issued for Jo Ann Dewey, and the body was soon identified.
Yep.
A search of the area, however, failed to turn up either her personal effects or her clothing. So, a preliminary report from Clark County Coroner Roy Spady indicated Dewey had been dead about a week, and death was probably caused by a severe cerebral hemorrhage.
Oh yeah.
But at the coroner's inquest held the following day, the chief pathologist testified that the post-mortem revealed she died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, Dewey had been severely beaten and sexually assaulted, and then apparently stuffed into the trunk of an automobile with a defective exhaust system.
Oh, so she might not have been dead yet.
So two
And that-
serious head wounds inflicted before death indicated the victim may have been knocked unconscious. Then after finding her dead, the kidnappers disposed of her personal effects and clothing, drove to the remote Wind River Canyon, and threw her body off the footbridge.
Gross.
And then all the lacerations and contusions on her body were caused by rocks and debris as it washed down the fast-running river there.
I don't know why you like this stuff. I know I say this all the time. I don't get it.
All right. So the investigation soon focused on 2 brothers,
Okay.
Terman Galilee Wilson.
Terman?
Yep.
Galilee Wilson.
Age 24.
All right.
And Utah Eugene Wilson. Age 20.
Terman and Utah are their names?
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
These guys lived with their
I guess it's not awesome.
No, it's not.
They murdered and raped a woman.
It's really none of them. They lived with their mom, Eunice E. Wilson.
Okay.
Now, they both had extensive police records, which included crimes of violence.
Okay.
When youngsters in school, the Wilson brothers were barely controllable, even by big male teachers.
Terman, Utah, get over here.
Yep.
Get out of here.
And fingerprints found on the beer bottle that was recovered at the scene of the abduction were Utah's.
Oh.
So, in 1946, Utah had been sent to reform school for burglary and assault.
Okay.
And in 1948, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of burglary and was sentenced to 1 year in the county jail and 2 years probation. So he's got a history.
Okay.
And so this case starts to remind the detectives of this other abduction and rape of a 17-year-old girl in 1942.
Oh.
Which sent the 3 Wilson brothers, Terman, Rassie, and Glenn, to the Oregon State Penitentiary. There's like 7 of these guys.
There's 2 more brothers?
There's like 7.
Terman,
Rassie, and Glenn.
Glenn's kind of normal.
Yeah.
Terman, Utah, Rassie, and Glenn so far.
And there's, yep.
Do you know the other 3?
I don't know if I get to it.
I can't wait to hear the rest of these names.
I know. So they had been sent to the penitentiary for that in 1942, abduction and rape. That same year, then, Terman was arrested for robbery in Portland. He pleaded guilty to the reduced charge of petty larceny and was sentenced to 6 months in jail. Okay. And he'd also been arrested for a variety of other crimes ranging from vagrancy to assault with a deadly weapon. But charges all had been dismissed.
Okay.
Police had been looking to question Terman in Utah for several days, but the 2 men were suddenly gone. They were just out of sight. Nobody could find them.
I don't know where Terman in Utah went.
Like mysteriously after this,
I guess they wouldn't
body
have southern,
is found.
They wouldn't have southern.
They wouldn't, but you
Washington.
want them to.
If their names are Terman in Utah,
yeah.
Boy.
So, as for their parents, Moses R. Wilson had served 7 years in Washington State Penitentiary for the molestation of a 13-year-old girl in 1933. His FBI rap sheet had a series of arrests for theft, drunken disorderly conduct, and disturbing the peace. So he's a real prize.
Yeah, the dad.
He's estranged from his wife, Eunice. He was living in a trailer house near Silverton, Oregon.
Okay.
Eunice Wilson received a 10-year suspended sentence for harboring a fugitive when son Glenn escaped from prison in 1946 and was found hiding at the Wilson home in Fern Prairie, disguised as a woman.
Boy, you couldn't make this up.
Right.
Is there a movie about this family?
There should be. This family is like the Fireflies from the House of a Thousand Corpses or whatever.
I don't know.
I don't even know
reference.
what that means. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
So, on Thursday, March 30th.
Oh, March 30th, the same day that on ABC Stop the Music was on, was an old radio show that was converted to TV that had host Burt Parks and Dennis James, and it was similar to Name That Tune. Where they'd have players identify songs. Mm-hmm. After a song was played, a home viewer would be called and could win a prize by correctly naming the song.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a twist to it.
Kind of old school show.
Now, Craig, did you ever have Name That Tune up in Canada?
I think we might have had it broadcast on like the CBC, but I don't think I know of it myself, but because it was on American TV. Yeah. I don't think we might have actually had it. We had a lot of our own content back then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
A lot of the content was either game shows or like theater.
Yep.
Theater for television. It was like Alcoa Theater, things like that.
Colgate presents.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so on Thursday, March 30th,
yep.
Clark County Prosecutor R. DeWitt Jones charged the Wilsons with kidnapping and first-degree murder, and they issued warrants for their arrest.
Okay.
They're still looking for them.
But they don't know where they are.
No. During the investigation, police recovered 2 automobiles connected with the Wilson brothers. A cream-color Pontiac sedan abandoned in Portland, and a black Buick sedan found in Camas? C-A-M-A-S? How would you say that?
Camas, maybe?
Camas, Washington.
Anytime I
sounds
don't
right.
know, I look on YouTube and type in the word and
I know you
pronunciation,
do.
and you can find it.
I know.
Almost everything.
I'm just too lazy.
Oh, okay.
Both were registered to Grant I. Wilson, the youngest brother, who lived in Camas,
Oh, Grant. That's a normal name.
with his wife Hazel. Grant had left his wretched home life at age 16 and was the only one of the 5 Wilson brothers still living who had never been connected with any crime.
Okay.
So he's the good one.
All bad families have a normal kid.
Seems like it. So police questioned Grant, and upon the advice of his pastor at the Assembly of God Church, he told detectives that Turman in Utah left his house on Monday, March 27th, saying they were going to Silverton, Oregon to visit their father.
Oh.
They were driving a used Oldsmobile that Turman, using the alias Ted E. Davis, had purchased in Portland on March 22nd.
Oh.
On Wednesday, March 29th, however, Turman called from a motel in Sacramento, California, asking if Grant had inquiries from the police.
Oh.
So they go out of town.
Yeah.
They say they're going to go see Dad.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he calls and he asks if the police have been calling
He calls
around.
back and says, yeah.
So eventually the Wilson brothers were found hiding in Sacramento.
Oh, Sacramento, California?
Yes. And they returned in
Or Sacramento.
custody. Were returned in custody to Vancouver, Washington.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, since you found a Vancouver, Washington, maybe there's a
Yeah.
Sacramento,
Canada.
Idaho or something.
Oh. Despite weeks of courtroom wrangling, with impassioned testimony from countless witnesses, secret jailhouse audio recordings, and legal drama from both prosecution and defense alike, they were eventually found guilty of first-degree murder. Now, this went on for 9 pages, the trial. And
Right.
I was like, I'm not going to get into it just because it's way too long.
It's too much to cover.
So there was all kinds of shenanigans, and they appealed and everything like that.
Well, maybe if you were going to do a documentary just on this, you'd read all that.
Right. I
But we
read
can't
it. I
be-
just didn't include
Oh, you read
it.
it. Okay.
So among the preponderance of evidence against them was something that Sergeant Carl Forsbeck had keenly observed when he collected the bottle, that the liquid was still cold and the bubbles were still large in the liquid in the beer bottle. Utah's fingerprint placed the brothers squarely at the scene of the abduction, and in the eyes of the jury, every movement they made afterward pointed to their guilt because they left. So on Friday evening, Turman in Utah ate a lavish meal. Oh, I forgot to tell you. January 2nd, 1953, Friday evening,
Oh, yeah?
they ate a lavish meal, which included fried rabbit and chicken giblet gravy. Is it giblet?
Giblet?
Giblet? I don't know.
Giblets? What do they say? Giblets?
I think
Cranberry-
we say giblets up here.
Giblets, that's right.
Giblets.
Cranberry sauce, French fries, hot biscuits, cherry pie, devil's food cake, ice cream, milk, and coffee. This was their last meal.
Oh, because they knew they were being...
That's right. So
Yeah.
then on Saturday, January 3rd, 1953,
Oh, January 3rd, 1953, that while this was all happening, while they're being put to death on CBS,
yeah,
Balance Your Budget was on TV.
balance your budget.
It was a game show where contestants described what caused their household budgets to slip into the red, and then they were given an opportunity to win the money they needed to solve their problems.
So,
by answering questions caused by Park. So it
I'm
wasn't
sorry,
like,
Janet. There's just been too many horrors that I've paid for, and
it was just like what's really going on is my gas bill is so high. But so it wasn't like you can win $20 million. It's just sorry, I'm just
You'll pay your gas bill?
Yeah, I just owe $900 to the IRS, whatever it is. And so you had
That's
to
riveting
give your
programming.
your details, but then you had to answer questions to get the money you need,
Mm-hmm.
and then, but you don't even win. Like you don't win the money. You win a key that opens up a treasure box,
Jeez.
and so you might open the wrong treasure box and not have that money. But so I don't know,
All right. Anyway,
something like that.
I'd watch that.
That was on TV. Wouldn't you watch that?
They were
I would,
they were set to
absolutely.
yeah. Well, why not? They were set to hang on that day
Oh,
at 12:06 a.m. Yep. And they did a special double thing for them.
like double
Gallows. Double gallows.
Double gallows.
That's right. And so at 12:06 a.m., Turman Wilson dropped through the trap door. He didn't say a word. 1 minute later, the trap door under Utah Wilson was sprung, dropping him 5 feet to his death. then there's one little bizarre episode after that. Minutes after the double execution. So they had tried to appeal, and their execution was getting stayed a lot.
Okay.
And then
That's why it's 3 years later.
Right. And which means, I don't know if Canada does stays of execution, but they, like the governor or somebody will call and say, don't execute them. They get a reprieve until a certain date.
No, our last person was executed in 1962.
Oh, good for you.
Great. That's good.
Yes.
We're just starting it all over again.
Right.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Anyway, minutes after they were both executed,
Yeah.
Western Union telephoned Warren Craner's office advising a telegram had just been received from U.S. Senator Warren G. Magnuson. Herewith is ordered a stay of execution of Wilson brothers by emergency decree, presidential authority delegated through me as U.S. Senator from Washington, confirmation coming from Olympia. So
that was after
they died.
They already got killed?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Now, Senator Magnuson was immediately contacted in Washington, D.C., and they were going to say, oh, well, too late. They're dead. And he says, I didn't send that. I don't know what you're talking about.
He said he didn't even send the stay?
That's right. And the Governor Langley's office said it had no knowledge of the telegram either.
Huh.
So Western Union reported the telegram had been called in from a payphone in a Seattle tavern at 11:30 p.m.
You could do that? You could just call, and anybody could call in a telegram with anybody's name?
I guess.
Huh.
The FBI assigned agents who identified the sender of the hoax telegram as Thomas E. Thomas, age 42, a furniture dealer.
Huh.
He was on January 8th, 1953.
Oh, the same day that George Burns and Gracie Allen on CBS had an episode where Harry buys an anniversary present for Blanche and hides it at the Burns home. Mm-hmm. However, Gracie finds it and thinks that Harry has fallen in love with her and is trying to win her from George.
Yes.
That same day that was on?
Yep. Thomas was arrested and charged with impersonating a federal officer.
Who is that guy? Why does he care? We don't know.
No idea.
Nobody
He
has
was just a nut.
Just a nutbag that wanted to get
Yeah,
involved?
as far as I can tell.
Wow.
So, Turman and Utah Wilson were the 68th and 69th prisoners to be hanged at the Washington State Penitentiary since 1901.
Wow.
When the state legislature mandated that all executions take place at the prison. It was the second double execution in state history and the first time that two brothers had died on the gallows together.
Wow. When did they stop doing hanging? Do we have any idea? I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a gotcha question. Like, you're going to know that. But that blows my mind. I know
they did hangings up at, didn't we have one in the 70s? I want to say that there was somebody got hung in the
remember.
70s.
We've had so many. I read a headline. Of course, this isn't probably accurate at all, but sometimes you scroll through Twitter that somebody was talking about, because the Trump organization Trump's the first president that's ever done executions as a lame duck in that lame duck period of a month or two or whatever it is. So they're doing, the Justice Department's doing like 3 or 4 executions.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I didn't look into it, but some headline said, and maybe it was, I shouldn't even mention this because it's probably a comedian, but somebody I thought said that he's trying to get somebody executed by firing squad.
Oh.
Like reinstate that as a thing.
It's probably more humane. It's all brutal and inhumane, but I mean, lethal injection causes all kinds of horrible things. It
does, doesn't it?
Yes.
What about shooting people at the moon out of a
rocket? Maybe.
Yeah.
Might be a good thing.
Or experiment in space, like instead of monkeys and animals and stuff.
Oh, stop!
If you're going to be sentenced to death, go figure out some space stuff for us.
I don't think that.
Go to Mars.
I don't think
Try to get to Mars.
No, I don't think.
That's who we send to Mars.
All right.
Anyway, well, thanks. That was interesting. Craig, do you have any anything to say about that horrible thing?
Yeah.
Any appalling reactions?
Not too much. In regards to the hanging, actually, the last people, it was 2 guys that were the last people executed in Canada, and they were actually executed by hanging. So our last execution was also our last hanging.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like we all think that lethal injection is better or somehow more humane, but
It's not.
I don't think it necessarily is. Some of the complications they might have. So, I mean, yeah, Amy always said, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind.
I did not say that. Gandhi said that.
Oh, Gandhi said. I get you and Gandhi.
Yeah, we
mixed
look
up.
alike.
You guys look alike. Well, you made us put a bumper sticker on our car.
Yes, that's right.
So, so now we're going to do it in reverse order. Instead of you going last, we're going to jump into April.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to be brief with all this, since that was a longer story and we don't want to go on forever. But Craig has something to share with us too, and we'll get to that. So I'm just going to jump in with little blurbs of things.
Okay.
I have a couple that are a little bit longer, but mostly short blurbs. April 1st of 1950 was a Saturday, and I should even skip this one, but the 1950 United States Census was taken. After 7 months of tabulation, the population of that on that day was announced to have been. Do you want to guess what the population?
No.
Yeah, of course you don't want to. 150,697,361 people.
Wow.
And do you know, 60 years later in 2010, do you know what it more than doubled to 308 million-ish?
Wow. That's a lot of people.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, I guess that's 60 years, but to double, so that just means there's just so many people.
Yep.
And I'm always terrible with population.
I know.
have
I
no
can't.
idea.
No.
I always was scared if I ever somehow became famous and went on Letterman, he'd ask me what the population of my hometown is. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. No idea.
8 billion? I don't know. 400? I don't know. I don't know the difference.
I'm the same way.
But that same day, Theodore Donay, a German-born American who had previously been convicted of treason for helping a German bomber pilot escape during World War II, vanished while under investigation by the FBI.
Oh.
Donay rented a motorboat at California's Santa Catalina Island, then abandoned it, and hours later, a foreign submarine was sighted off of Point Arguello.
Really? So he got away?
Arguello, probably. Yeah, so I guess he got away on a foreign sub. Somebody
Nice.
picked him up. That's crazy. Must have been a German sub. And so there's all these reports that nobody can.
So he was a spy in the war?
Yeah, he was a German-born American who had been convicted of treason for helping a German
why? Then it's not nice.
bomber pilot escape.
No.
Yeah, so probably not.
He's probably a Nazi.
I guess.
Yeah, I would think.
And he got away. You're going to like this. April 9th, 1950 was a Sunday. Mm-hmm. And biochemists Thomas H. Jukes and Robert Stokstad of Laderley Laboratories.
You made those names up.
They
sound like names you make up.
I didn't make them up, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right.
No, I wouldn't. I'm going to say no.
They were biochemists with Laderley Laboratories, a division of Americans.
I love how I got a lecture earlier about how you look things up and get and
I usually do
the pronunciation.
Well, I just skipped the thing that I really looked up. It was really some Russian word, so I'm skipping that whole thing. But anyway, this was a division of American Cyanamid in.
What's the point? Just tell the point.
In Pearl River, New York, they announced their accidental discovery of the increased production that resulted from antibiotics mixed into animal feed. So they discovered that mixing an antibiotic into feed at 1 part per 400 pounds, or 1 part per 400, 5 pounds into 1 ton, increased the growth rate in piglets by 50%.
Oh, the poor things.
And at a lesser rate in chicks and calves, leading to a practice that would become widespread in animal husbandry.
And cause antibiotics to become obsolete in humans.
Yeah. Well, and really screw up everybody. But
yeah,
I really read up, and I have a whole bunch of stuff on this, but by the time I explain it all, it'll be 100 years later. But the short of it is they accidentally discovered this because they were looking into trying to figure out a cheaper alternative to chicken feed.
Yeah.
Because they knew that there was something in liver extracts that helped prevent chickens from getting anemia.
Okay.
A lot of them were becoming anemic and sick. But there was something in these liver extracts, but that liver extract was really expensive. Mm-hmm. So that farmers were moving to soy feed, which is a lot cheaper, but it's also they were getting sick. And so all these another competing laboratory found, they figured out what the enzyme, like they took out whatever the substance in that liver extract was, and it turned out to be vitamin B12. They discovered vitamin B12 around 1950.
Right.
And so then that became mass produced, and they made a bunch of money on that. And so this was a competing group trying to figure out also how to do it. And so the way they tested it, this is terrible. They would like malnourish chickens to the point of where they could barely, like they just were just healthy enough to lay eggs.
To be able to, yeah.
And then so they take those chicks and who are struggling and then try to give them stuff and see what would help. And they found out that these antibiotics that they discovered was even better than B12, and they were growing even more. So that's how kind of they discovered that. But I know that's way too much into one little thing. But reading into this article, according to the Alicia Patterson Foundation, that did a lot of this article, is very interesting. So you can check it out on their website. But they also mentioned that anemia killed Alexander Graham Bell, Annie Oakley, and Madame Curie.
Really?
And also a bunch of chickens.
I thought radiation poisoning killed Madame Curie.
That's according to the Alicia Patterson Foundation.
Okay.
So I could be wrong. And we'll jump to April 10th, which was a Monday. The musical racetrack film Riding High, directed by Frank Capra and starring Bing Crosby, premiered at the Paramount Theater in New York City. It was basically about racehorses and having a winning horse, and Bing Crosby sings throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
And so I fell down this rabbit hole of Bing Crosby research. And did you know?
I'd always heard he beat his wife.
Yeah, he was more, I think, abusive to his children.
Oh, was he?
One of his sons wrote an article about him, and he used to. Bing Crosby, apparently, according to his son, would do. If you left anything laying around, like if you left socks on the floor, or you left anything, he'd make you wear it around your neck for a week.
What?
Yeah, and then he would whip his sons with belts, of course.
Oh, Jesus.
And he wouldn't stop whipping them until they were bleeding. Like that's when he would stop.
What
Yeah.
in the world?
But that was 1950s. You know, that's like, yeah. So Bing Crosby, and he I don't know if he beat his wife as much, but he was notoriously
womanizer,
cheating on his wife all the time.
Yes.
In fact, I got in this whole rabbit hole with Bing Crosby too. Apparently, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby did wife swapping all the time and things like that. And they were both huge womanizers too. Yeah. So in fact, there's this
Bob Hope. Yeah. Not even attractive.
Yeah. But you're famous. It
doesn't
famous
matter.
And powerful. But there's a unauthorized biography of Bob Hope too that I want to get now.
Oh, really?
Apparently, he just talks about how
was he racist
crazy
and stuff?
No, just crazy sex stuff. With
my
lots
Lord!
Of women. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a goofy thing.
All right.
And that brings us to April 14th, 1950, which is a Friday. And I totally skipped. You can not be mad at me because I totally skipped Thursday, April 13th when Ron Perlman was born.
Good. Well, now you didn't skip it.
No, I skipped that. Ron Perlman's the greatest actor in American history. And we're going to jump all the way to Friday, where I thought you would cover this. This is one I gave you.
Which one?
When Frances Seymour Fonda, 44 years old, the estranged wife of actor Henry Fonda and mother of future actors Jane Fonda and Peter Fonda, committed suicide by cutting her throat.
Oh, my.
She left a note that ended with the words, "I am sorry, but this is the best way out." Mr. and Mrs. Fonda had been considering divorce since December, though no action had been filed.
Jeez. Why would you cut your throat to kill yourself?
This is all from Wikipedia, so I didn't really look into this because I thought you were going to. But so that's why I thought nobody would do that. So that's why I thought maybe you could find
Might
more.
be a murder.
But apparently that evening, Henry Fonda appeared as scheduled for a Broadway performance that he.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that night.
Night of his mom's death.
Of his wife.
Oh, his wife.
Henry Fonda was married to
That's
her.
right. Okay, I'm getting confused.
Peter
and Jane.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, didn't Jane Fonda die?
No, she's alive.
Oh, she's still alive?
Yeah.
Who's the one that died the same day as Michael
Farrah Fawcett.
Michael Jack. Oh, Farrah Fawcett. Huh. Okay. Why do I get Farrah Fawcett and Jane Fonda mixed up?
Yeah, I don't know, both sex symbols of the same time period.
Were they both Charlie's Angels?
No.
Were any of them Charlie's Angels?
Farrah was.
Okay. I'm an idiot. Okay. And this brings us to Saturday, April 15th, 1950. And Craig has a Canadian story to tell us, right, Craig?
I do. Yeah, I have quite the story of a disaster that hit Manitoba. So I'll get right to it. First, I'm guessing you have a lot of American listeners. So Manitoba is a gigantic province in the middle of Canada. It's right above Minnesota and North Dakota, and then right next to Ontario. The Hudson Bay is one of its ports or one of its waterways. So it also has a very big river that goes through it. It's the Red River, and it starts down in North Dakota, and it goes all the way up into Canada, which is seems kind of weird that it's going up into Canada, because usually our rivers go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it goes into what's called Lake Winnipeg, and then Lake Winnipeg drains into Hudson Bay, and then Hudson Bay out into the Atlantic Ocean. But
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, it gets a lot of water, and so floods happen, and they actually happen quite often in the Red River area that southern Manitoba. So seasonal flooding has happened a variety of times. There were major floods in 1826, 1852, and 1861. And the 1826 flood was 36.5 feet, which was the highest that's ever been recorded, all the way up to today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And thank you for converting those to feet.
Yes. Yeah. Thank
You were
for that.
thoughtful there.
I made sure that I did that. I'm like, everything I looked at was meters, and I'm like, I'm going to convert this because
Like, this is not going to work.
it's just easier.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand it.
So the 1950 flood is actually the lowest in height from 1826 to 1950, but it was still a bad one because of there weren't controls in place. Winnipeg, which is the capital of Manitoba, and it's right on the shores of Lake Winnipeg, it didn't have any controls in place to protect it, and the flood hit Winnipeg, which was a horrible disaster. The 1826 flood was actually 6 feet higher than the 1950 flood.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. Huh. And I thought that was a lot.
Yeah. So heavy snows in the winter down in North Dakota and Minnesota melt into the river, start flowing into Manitoba, and then heavy rains hit in the spring, kind of right around the April 15th. And then it creates this situation where you have this huge heavy flow of water moving down. Again, it seems weird because it's moving north rather than the other way, but
Yeah.
but it's moving towards
That does
Winnipeg.
seem weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the Red River flood officially hits flood levels on April 22nd in Winnipeg. And it's kind of unusual. Usually when you think of a flood, it hits and then it's maybe a week and then the waters recede. But this one lasted 51 days. So it's just horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
By early May, the heavy rainfalls pushed it to 30.2 feet in Winnipeg. So that's as high as it'll get. But that's enough to cause like widespread devastation in Winnipeg, which is, in terms of a Canadian city, is a major Canadian city even today. I think there might have been maybe 50,000 people there, or maybe 100,000 back in 1950.
Mm-hmm.
God, can you imagine having that much water? Just,
And so they all had to evacuate. Like
More or
100,000
less.
had to evacuate. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened was the water hits Winnipeg, and there were 8 dikes that gave way were supposed to protect Winnipeg, but 8 of them gave way, and this water just floods into Winnipeg, and it turns 600 square miles of farmland into one giant lake. And I double checked the size; it's about 1.5 times the size of New York City.
whoa.
Really? Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's good. That's a good comparison for us Americans.
So, see, I tried to make sure I could have been like, oh, it's this much bigger than Calgary or something like that.
Yeah,
No,
you're like, that's not going
make
to
it
do
easy for
any
everybody.
good. Yeah.
And then when you think of this lake, you might think, oh, well, it's only like a foot deep or something like that. But it actually ranged in depth from 2 to 6 feet, but the deepest portion was actually 15 feet deep. So it was a literal
Wow.
lake around and through Winnipeg.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So then Winnipeg has to turn to the Canadian Army for help. The Red Cross, they have to declare a state of emergency. I was looking at pictures of this, and you see houses that are flooded all the way up to their roofs. And
Oh
it's
my God.
just like devastation throughout Winnipeg.
Wow.
Total loss.
So Winnipeg has 11 bridges at the time, and 4 of them are completely destroyed by this flood. So you're already starting to cut off the ability for people to get out of certain areas of Winnipeg.
Oh, no.
And that's where we get the 100,000 people have been evacuated. So most have been evacuated from Winnipeg, but then the Red River area, which has a lot of farm settlements, has a lot of smaller communities like Brandon and Portage-la-Prairie, all are being flooded, not to the extent of Winnipeg, but still pretty bad.
Yeah, wow.
So in Winnipeg, 10,000 homes are destroyed and 5,000 buildings are damaged. So now you're dealing with a ton of homeless people.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
10,000 homes. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's big for Canada. That's actually quite a large number. Even today, that'd be a large number.
Yeah. Yes.
Just for a flood. Just the whole and to imagine the water going up to the roof is insane to me.
I used to live in a place called High River, which floods, apparently, based on the name. And in 2013, it got a horrible flood. I'd actually moved 2 months previous, luckily, but it got a horrible flood. And it's very similar to this, where the town was empty. They had to evacuate the entire town. It hit Calgary. It was one of the worst floods in Canadian history. And so you can kind of see the same thing when I saw places that I used to visit, where I used to work, are completely flooded out. And it's really surreal even to see that from when you don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this, it spurs on the largest evacuation, the 100,000 people in Canadian history to that point. And I kind of want to, 1979, because this was crazy when I researched it. So I'm jumping ahead a bit. But so the flood, like I said, creates this evacuation of 100,000 people. And that's the largest in Canadian history until the 1979 Mississauga train derailment. And that train derailment, I'm including it because it's crazy, was 106 train cars derailed. They were all carrying chemicals and explosives, and they caused an explosion that sent a fireball 5,000 feet in the air.
Oh, my God.
You could see it 60 miles away.
Oh, my God.
And they had to evacuate 200,000 people, which is the biggest evacuation in North American history until Hurricane Katrina in 2005, I think.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
now,
right.
Now think about 5,000 feet in the air, a fireball.
Oh, my God.
Like, you must think it's the end of the world.
Yeah, you
right?
would see it in your backyard. You would just look over.
And the
there's
sound and the...
Yeah.
And the panic? I can't even imagine. You said that was 1973, you said?
1979, yeah. And for some...
1979, sorry.
For some reason, Canada has a thing with explosions. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Halifax explosion, which is when back in 1917, a ship full of explosives collided with another ship, and it created the largest accidental non-nuclear explosion in history, like to this day. It killed 2,000 people immediately.
Oh, my God.
Like bits of iron were raining down from the sky. People were blinded by broken glass. It was just insane. Like, it was this massive mushroom cloud. And it was actually the largest explosion till Hiroshima. It's crazy.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Yikes. Yeah. Explosion City.
Yeah, it's like it's like an episode of MacGyver up there in Canada.
Well, wasn't there something about somebody used to send their, like, I think we used to ship our garbage to Canada, didn't we do that? Like,
Probably.
New York and stuff would just like ship everything up to Canada and like set it on fire.
Yeah. You guys used to send them to Toronto. And then I don't know if you remember, there was an episode of The Simpsons where they were trying to hide all the garbage and was like hiding in like the golf course and was spewing up everywhere. They actually showed that at Toronto City Hall, and that actually stopped the sending of garbage because it was such a good argument for like
nice
garbage everywhere.
Oh my gosh,
that's great.
That's hilarious.
I love that.
That's great. So Matt Groening actually stopped that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Hilarious. That's so funny.
The flood lasts for 51 days until June 12th. And then amazingly, you think of it like a wall of water cascading down the river, wiping out houses and families. Only 3 people died in Canada. 5 died in the United States. So it wasn't like a huge death toll, which, silver linings.
Yes. It doesn't have to always be about death.
And
yeah, that's right.
yeah, exactly. And then, so in Winnipeg, the losses adjusted for inflation is about $600 million to $1 billion in today's funds. So, like, devastating for the community. Yeah, and then in terms of floods, that flood was the 6th highest in recorded history.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
And does that include-
still to this day?
And then to this day, yeah, for the Red River in Manitoba. So what happens is after this flood happens, they decide that they want to protect Winnipeg. So they create the Red River Floodway, which is 29 miles long, and it takes the flow of the Red River and it diverts it around the city and discharges it below a dam. So they started that in 1962. They finished it in 1968, and they figure it's probably prevented about $40 billion in flood damages. And it moved 2.75 billion cubic feet of earth, which is actually more than the Suez Canal. And it cost $500 million in today's funds.
Wow.
Well, that's some bang for your buck, though.
Yeah.
You know,
It
it
is.
prevented
Oh, yeah,
that much
absolutely.
damage.
Yeah.
But floods, they still happen there. They've happened in 1974, 79, 96, 97, 2006, 2009, and 2011. The 97
boy.
and 2009 floods were worse than the 1950. The 1997 flood is actually the third highest in history, but they only evacuated
Wow.
25,000 people because of that floodway protecting Winnipeg, and only 1,000 homes were damaged, even though it was a much worse flood that was several feet higher than the 1950 flood. But yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's
Yeah.
that's a 1950 Winnipeg flood, or a Red River flood, I guess.
Wow.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Craig. Craig and I have been talking back and forth for a couple weeks now, trying to come up with, what's the best Canadian story? When should we have them on there? And there's a fire coming up, I think, in 1952 that or 50 also.
Yeah.
So we might, if you're free, whenever we get to that, I don't even remember when it
Yeah.
was, but if we might just have you pop back on and talk about that, if you don't mind, since I know you.
Yeah, I'm
you're
totally
familiar
down
with
for that.
Yeah. So we might have Craig back as our Canadian expert.
Yes, Canadian expert.
Yeah, and really, you should really listen to Canadian History Ehx. It's really, really a well done podcast. You remind me, the way you kind of talk and present stories, you remind me a lot of Aaron Mahnke from Lore. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's just yeah, so very, very easy storytelling and very easy to listen to. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to jump. I'll just jump right with the second half of April, I think.
Okay.
And this one didn't really happen on April 15th. I just picked a date because it was this spring of 1950. And this is a cool story that I tried to get this lady as a guest because she's still alive, but her name is Catherine Johnston. She's known as Catherine Tubby Johnston. She became the first girl to play Little League Baseball in 1950. She was responsible to take her little brother to try out for the baseball team. And so she cut her ponytail off.
Oh, wow.
And put it under her hat and went by the name Tubby instead of Catherine, and joined the King's Dairy team posing as a boy. And then when she made the team, she told the coach she was a girl, and he said, "That's okay. You're a darn good player."
Aw.
And so there is an NPR story about this. You can read about her. It's really interesting. There's an interview with her. There's a YouTube channel where they did kind of a special on this, and I contacted that group to see if I could play that YouTube clip, and they said it'll take them like 18 weeks to get back to me for approval.
Forget it.
So I said, I'd still like approval if I could, but they didn't get back to me yet. And I found her on Facebook because she's still alive. She's written a book. She's like in her 80s.
Yeah.
And she's somewhere in New York. And so I wrote to her and messaged her and asked if she would be on the podcast, and she never answered me. So she probably doesn't know what a podcast is.
Yeah, she doesn't know what a podcast
maybe
is.
doesn't use Facebook, or was wondering why a stranger's emailing her. But I'm still new in the whole asking for guests type of thing. So she may get back to me someday later, or
we could talk about
we
it
could
then.
go back to it. But
Yeah.
I just thought that was an interesting story.
Yeah.
And then April 16th on 1950 was a Sunday. The McLean House at Appomattox, Virginia, where the American Civil War ended on April 9th, 1865, with the surrender of Confederate General Robert E. Lee to U.S. General Ulysses S. Grant, was open to the public after years of restoration, and retired U.S. Army General Ulysses S. Grant III, the grandson of General Grant, participated along with Lee's great-grandson,
Oh, wow.
25-year-old Robert E. Lee IV of San Francisco. They all did a ribbon cutting ceremony, got together.
Oh,
So,
neat.
To me, I just can't imagine their grandsons. Like,
Yeah, they were on the opposite sides.
yeah, do you think they fought a little bit? Like,
don't
maybe
know.
shoved each other a couple times? I thought that was interesting.
It's crazy they all
then-
have the same name, too.
Yeah, they have the exact same
Yeah.
name. So there's another Ulysses S. Grant and another. I guess if you're that famous,
Yeah, you have to.
you have to keep that name going. I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Don Knotts. There should be a Don Knotts Jr. I don't know if there is. April 17th, 1950 was a Monday, and according to derangedlacrimes.com, John Henry Grant, an aeronautical engineer, had instructed his wife to take out flight insurance, then placed a 5-gallon gasoline time bomb into her luggage prior to
Oh, my gosh.
her United Airlines flight from L.A. to San Diego with her 2 children. Mm-hmm. But Grant had a change of heart at the last minute and told airport officials not to let the airplane take off. Mm-hmm. And then so he went and tussled with the baggage handler at the last minute because he decided he didn't want to kill his wife and his
And all the other
kids
people.
and everybody on the plane.
Yeah.
And it exploded
Oh, no.
there, but it didn't harm anybody. Nobody was injured somehow. But Betty Grant and her 2 young children then watched as John Henry Grant was led away by the cops to be questioned in an alleged bomb plot. And he had only purchased a total of $25,000 in life insurance. So it wasn't to get rich.
Yeah.
But he has also come to find out, according to this website, derangedlacrimes.com, he also was seeing other women.
Oh.
At multiple women, I guess, at some stewardesses, and so
So he's a scumbag.
He's kind of scumbag. Yep. But yeah, of course, if he was going to blow up a plane
With all those people, of
there were
course he's a scumbag.
16 people were going to be on that, I guess. And this one I kept in because it has a Canada reference. April 18th, 1950 was a Tuesday. The Avro Canada C-102 jetliner became the first jet airplane to transport airmail in North America, flying from Toronto to New York City in less than an hour
Nice.
and half the time
awesome.
of a propeller-driven airplane. Yes. That's the same day that Billy Martin, controversial as a baseball player and later as a baseball manager, made his Major League Baseball debut. Mm-hmm. He was a drunk that fought everybody all the time. He got in fights all the time. Yeah, he was always getting fights, and then he was a manager getting fights all the time. So he was very, very controversial, hothead a-hole. But he was very good at baseball. He got hits in both of his at-bats. Vin Scully made his first broadcast as an announcer for the Brooklyn Dodgers that year,
Okay.
which is amazing because he just retired in 2016.
Oh, my
So
God.
1950 to 2016, So Vin Scully's an old man. Everybody knows him in sports, I think.
Okay.
Jumping through, skipping a couple things. April 20th, 1950, I can't leave this out, was a Thursday, and this was the U.S. Director of Central Intelligence, Roscoe H. Hillenketter, authorized the CIA to begin Project Bluebird with the objective of mind control research.
Was it the men who stare at goats?
I'm not familiar with that.
The psychic, like they
No,
were
this was one where they were trying to discover methods of conditioning personnel to prevent unauthorized extraction of information. They're trying to find out if drugs could be used to get someone to tell secrets.
Okay.
So they tested people with marijuana and
Okay.
LSD and all kinds
All
of
this
things.
other stuff.
Heroin, peyote, mescaline.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, and for years, it went on for years. It became Project Artichoke and all this stuff where they found LSD was like the most promising one. So they really focused on that. And then when the subjects were done, they fogged them with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the whole experience. So it was a whole
my God.
horrible thing. And you go down another rabbit hole looking that
Yes,
up.
the
Yeah, so-
CIA's got some crazy
yeah,
shit.
I mean, that could be a whole episode.
Yes,
of
it
just
could.
that.
Yep.
So maybe we'll come back to that someday. Then Peter Frampton was born on April 22nd. You never know. Craig might be a huge Peter Frampton fan.
Hey, I like him.
Yeah, there you go. Good. And April 23rd, 1950 was a Sunday. We're getting towards the end of April here. And one of the most closely matched 1950 Stanley Cup finals in National Hockey League history. The New York Rangers and the Detroit Red Wings faced each other in Game 7. The Rangers had won Game 4 and Game 5 in overtime, and the teams were tied 3-3 at the end of regulation in the deciding match. And at the end of the first overtime, the Rangers won. They were tied still at the end of the first overtime. The Rangers won in double overtime, 4-3 on a goal by Pete Babando, who had made only 6 goals during the regular season. That's not a lot. You don't know that.
I don't know that.
So, Craig, I have to ask you: does it make Canadians angry when there's 2 American teams in the finals?
Well, the last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup was the Canadiens in 1993.
Oh,
so,
gosh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I guess it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, half the players in the NHL are Canadian, and
Yeah.
so it's still like we kind of win the cup. When you win the Stanley Cup, every player gets the Stanley Cup for one day, and so they'll bring it to their hometown, their community. So we're still seeing the Stanley Cup. We're still having Stanley Cup parades, but next year, hopefully the Oilers win the Stanley Cup and bring it back to Edmonton. But I mean, we'd like to see the Stanley Cup in Canada again. It's been Well,
That's
it's been
way
a
too
generation. We used to win it all the time. It was
Yeah. I
crazy.
guess it has been. We don't really follow hockey, but I just feel like there's something unnatural about hockey in the South. Like when there's a Tampa Bay team, like
It's weird because it's so warm.
it seems weird to me. I don't know.
We blame Wayne Gretzky for that. He got traded from the Oilers to the LA Kings, and then people realized
That's right.
You could have hockey teams in the South, and then I guess Raleigh would be the closest one to you guys, and they won the Stanley Cup in 2006 and beat the Oilers actually.
Oh my
for the
gosh.
Stanley Cup that year. Yeah,
This is embarrassing to say, but what's the Raleigh team's name even? I don't even know.
Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, the Carolina Hurricanes. They're in Raleigh. Okay.
Yep.
I thought they were in... I don't know why I thought they were somewhere else. I thought they were in Greensboro or something, or maybe that's a different team.
They used to be in Hartford, but then they got sent to
they moved, yeah.
Carolina. Yeah.
Okay. Huh, okay. Then in more sports news, Amy's going to just tune out and fall
Yes.
asleep. Some of this I kept in because of different reasons. Like, I'm very nostalgic about things. In the 1950 NBA Finals, the Minneapolis Lakers defeated the Syracuse Nationals. 2 teams, Amy, that are not
So that's
in
why
existence.
they are called the Lakers, because it's from Minneapolis.
Yes, and if you paid attention, we've talked about this on probably four different episodes where I've explained to you the LA Lakers were the Minneapolis Lakers because of all the lakes. And so they're the same color as the Vikings, and I'm a Vikings fan, and so that was kind of cool. The purple and gold, that makes sense. But that's what drives me nuts, and I've explained this to you where I'm mad. Like,
Yeah, I know.
change your name. You can't be the LA Lakers. There's no lakes. Like, change your name, and Minneapolis Timberwolves should be the Minneapolis Lakers, and then LA should be the riots. I guess they're the streets, the whatever's in LA, the sun. I don't know.
That happens
The
here too.
paparazzi.
With the NHL, you guys
Yeah.
had the Atlanta Flames, and then they moved to Calgary, but kept the Flames part. And I think the Flames was to do with the Civil War and burning down Atlanta. It makes
That makes no
in Calgary
sense.
why they're called the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that one. That's funny. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
But Craig, one that bothers me, and I've mentioned this several times, and I get angry, and I'm so mad about it, is the
Oilers.
the Oilers, because the Oilers changed their name.
Oh, they
Houston
did.
Oilers, then with the Tennessee became the Titans. The one that bothers me is the Utah Jazz.
Oh, yeah.
They were the New Orleans Jazz. There's jazz in New Orleans.
That's right.
There's no jazz in
It's
Utah.
the opposite of jazz in Utah.
There's no jazz in Utah. There's
No.
no jazz in Utah. Change your name. And now the New Orleans has to be the Pelicans because the Hornets went to New Orleans and became the Pelicans. And I guess there's Pelicans in New Orleans. That's fine. But they should be the New Orleans Jazz. And Utah should be the
Mormons.
The Mormons or something.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, I know.
Irrational
Can
anger.
we move on?
Yes, I'm sorry. I have irrational anger over that, and we'll move on. I'll get through April, I promise. And this one I kept in because another thing. This Christmas is coming, and this could be an idea for you for presents. April 24th, 1950, the NBA dropped 6 of its 17 teams as part of a reorganization to rid itself of financially weak franchises. So the Denver Nuggets, St. Louis Bombers, and the Chicago Stags departed, along with the Anderson Packers, the Sheboygan Redskins, and the Waterloo Hawks. And so the reason I bring this up is because I love defunct teams.
Yes.
Like, I love the Toledo Gold Diggers. There was the hockey team in Toledo for a long time. The Toledo Gold Diggers were huge. They had a cool logo, a cool jersey. I want a Toledo Gold Diggers shirt. I want you to buy me one. I've been wanting to. There was the Carolina. There was a basketball team in Charlotte. The Charlotte. I can't remember what their name is now. But anyway,
Don't look at me.
So I love these old. So I looked up some of these old logos and things. They're cool, old school logos. But the Anderson, Indiana Packers their logo is a Native American, so you can't do that. And there's a Redskin team here, so you can't do that either anymore. No. Anyway, and so but those teams that were kicked out, they started their own league called the National Professional Basketball League. It only lasted 1 year with those teams, plus the Louisville Alumnites, the Grand Rapids Hornets, and the Denver Refiners, the Evansville Agogans, and the St. Paul Lights, and the Kansas City High Spots.
Those are some terrible team names.
I don't know. I just love bringing up old defunct teams.
All right.
And I want a jersey or a shirt of all of those for Christmas, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
Easy. Okay. There's so much. Okay. I only have a couple more things. April 25th was a Tuesday. Chuck Cooper of Duquesne University became the first African American to be selected in the NBA draft, and picked in the second round by the Boston Celtics. Later in the draft, there were two other African Americans. The Washington Capitals selected Earl Lloyd and Harold Hunter. And after their college eligibility ended, both Cooper and Lloyd had signed temporary contracts to play for the Harlem Globetrotters. But black people could finally play sports. That's a big deal. I couldn't skip that. But that is the end of April 1950. There's so much. We really thought, Craig, I'm sorry, we really thought 1950 would be shorter episode. Like we'd cover a whole year in one episode.
Yeah, like we used to.
But now with like Wikipedia is now like categorizing, like cataloging everything in history, real easily accessible. And I keep finding more things, and the more the internet grows and you fall down these rabbit holes of information, it's hard to even... Like, this could have been 17 episodes. We could have expounded on all of these.
That's right.
So we're still trying to figure out what we're doing here. We're just talking about everything. But, our listeners can look up those things, anything they found interesting, and look up more information now that everything is at our fingertips. But, Craig, thanks for being here with us. Thanks for your patience and listening to us blather on about all kinds of things. Thanks for your time. I mean, this is a long time. And we'd love to have you back sometime if you're interested, if you didn't hate it.
No, I loved it. It was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was nice to kind of... most of my audience is Canadian. I kind of, speaking to the choir kind of thing when I'm talking about Canadian history, so it's nice to spread some of Canada's history to our neighbors to the south, and no, I would be happy to come back on anytime.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for being here. You were great.
Thank you so much.
Great information for us. We love to learn about the Canadian thing. We have some Scottish folks that contacted us on Podcorn that we're going to have soon.
That's going to really be a delay.
We're going to do a whole special episode. They're just going to tell their Scottish stories.
Oh, okay.
So because they have so many that they want to tell, and so they're a group of young guys that are kind of funny. So it's fun bridging the gap and reaching out to people from other countries. But let's unite our countries together and start getting along now. We can put the Trump shit behind us.
That's right.
Yes. But yeah, I won't complain to you about the Canadian. You've been very nice about converting kilometers and degrees.
Yes.
I had a hard time when I was in Montreal for a week knowing anything. Like I never knew what the temperature was. I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many miles were anything. And I think, there was a lot of French, like everything's in French and English. And I never knew if people...
Bilingual,
Yeah. Nobody knew if I spoke French. They'd always ask me, do you speak French? I'm like, no, please, no.
Yeah, not at all.
Not at all. I'm terrible at it. But that's cool. It's a great place. And so... Yeah, so we hope to maybe we'll meet in person someday once this pandemic is over. And sorry for our country ruining the pandemic even more.
Yeah, we were saying if Trump were to win again, we were like, Canada bound, but I don't think Canada's accepting Americans right now.
I don't think they'll ever accept Americans again.
Probably not.
Our border's closed right now. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Definitely should be. Anyway,
All right.
Thanks for being here, and we look forward to working with you again, Craig. Thanks, listeners, for listening.
Yes.
Thanks to those in Thailand for making us the 195th top comedy podcast in Thailand
With the 8 listeners.
with our 8 listeners.
That's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, that might not be true. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you all for listening.
It's time to get out of here, Chuck Berry.
Yes, this has been episode 127. Yeah, it's time to get out of here. Chuck Berry.
You been down on the streets today? Say now, baby, it's about to get crazy. Everybody's got something to say.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network, powered by Ortho Carolina. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.